So when I put this together, I thought, why would we do this talk? Well, the first thing is that we certainly need a proper storyline and vision for gas. It becomes very apparent where we've sit, you can see the transition to net zero, gas plays an important role, but the question always comes up, what happens then? And that comes up with people in infrastructure a lot. And the answer is, are you going for a transition to oblivion? What are you saying to the community about, gas will transition you there, but then there won't be any gas? And I think the answer is you've got to have confidence that there will be gas there, that you can offer the community a real opportunity to have renewable gases or alternative gases. And you've got to set some realistic numbers, I suppose, but I like to think of 300 to 600 petajoules, setting ourselves a real target of saying, you need this sort of alternative gas in the system to actually give people all sorts of opportunities to stay in and use gas. And I use gas with abbreviations here because I use it as alternate gas. And I think it's looking more doable. I think that's the good thing. I think we've had a lot more faith than most people over the last couple of years and starting to come to fruition. And I'm going to push on and I'll show you why. I get asked, why not just use hydrogen and be done with it? And I think the answer is, well, the market's segmenting, and we've heard it a lot today. People are starting to gravitate towards the high-cost markets with hydrogen. It is the right use of it. It is a premium fuel. It is able to change things out, such as diesel and ammonia derivatives. I spent life in an ammonia plant, ammonia nitrate plant. It would make a lot of sense to me to replace that whole ugly front end of an ammonia nitrate plant with a hydrogen plant. And also it means that you can make the hydrogen right where you need it. And I think that's probably another important issue we'll cover off today about infrastructure. The trouble with green hydrogen is it will struggle to replace natural gas. It will happen eventually, I suspect, if you keep going, but the reality is it struggles, and particularly if somebody says you've got a cap at $12, you'll really start to struggle there as well. And the liquid markets are far closer, and we can have a look at those markets. This is the original work down the bottom here. You probably can't see it that well, but this was actually the work that was done at the National Hydrogen in 2018. And it was actually pretty accurate. It showed that the really good markets were in passenger vehicles, trucks, buses. It was hard to compete in the passenger vehicle industry with lithium-ion batteries, but the truck market, road area powers, all that sort of stuff, it was actually a really good displacement for diesel. And we've looked at all sorts of other things. There's new projects that have come out, new modelling come out. It doesn't come out far off, right? You really are always well above what has been the traditional prices for natural gas. So diesel, though, is $43 a gigajoule currently to miners, for example. And so you've got plenty of headroom to work there. And they use, like I have one client that uses 1 million litres of diesel a year. So you've really got the purpose-built market there for them if you want to go and try and replace it. To hit $10, you have to be $1.40 a kilogram. And, $2 is about $14. So that's probably, right on the mark, but you need to be there. More importantly, is you need to then deliver it to the customer without adding cost to it. And we just talked about the fact that these are major hazard facilities too. I think people underestimate as you scale this thing up, you can't have more than 50 tonne storage before you're a major hazard facility. This is the Edify one in Townsville. I think it's going to be talked about. 1 gigawatt, 150,000 tonnes. It's 18 petajoules and it takes up 300 acres of storage. And that can go backwards and forwards. I think the reality is here, if you're going to make ammonia, you've got to store hydrogen or you've got to store ammonia, you've got to store both. And they're all major hazard facilities and they're not going to be built at the back of any suburb in Sydney, that's for sure. So you really got to think about some ports are just off limits. And you won't get this sort of, we'll build big hydrogen and be able to trickle down into our networks. Well, you might have to trickle it a long way, right? Like from Townsville or somewhere like that.